For the longest time, the crossover boxing space has had primarily 4 kings of the scene, to whom everyone calls out or aspires. We know them as the Mount Rushmore of influencer boxing: KSI, Logan Paul, Jake Paul, and Deji. These fighters have cemented themselves and have been fighting since the beginning of the crossover scene. And among those 4 kings, there have been others since the beginning of the influencer boxing scene that have stayed around and gotten better to this day. One man that has been here since this scene began with KSI and Joe Weller, and has faced some of the toughest tests of any influencer boxer, is a man we know by 3 words and 7 figures: the Big Gibber. ANESONGIB took on Max Plays on the undercard of KSI versus Joe Weller, and after taking home a win by TKO in round 2, Gib made the decision to keep his boxing journey moving forward. Not many people thought a kid that was primarily playing FIFA and never picked up boxing gloves in his life would ever take the chance to box in front of a packed-out crowd, let alone once. But after a win versus Max Plays on the undercard of KSI versus Joe Weller, Gib decided to keep his journey going by not only putting down the controller and stepping out of his room, but putting himself in tough fight after tough fight with, at the time, what was revered as the war of influencer boxing: Gib versus Jay Swingler. After a back and forth, not necessarily technical, but battering ram performance by Gib, he beat Jay Swingler in a unanimous decision in a 4-round war. And after those 2 impressive wins and a lot of fanfare, Gib catapulted himself into a main event in the influencer boxing scene, taking on one of the highest level names, and in fact, one of the kings of influencer boxing. He was looking to cement himself as one of the top names in our scene and prove that the 7-figure Gibber nickname deserves to be among the ranks of KSI, Jake, Logan, and Deji. But just like any other journey, there's always a bump in the road. And for ANESONGIB, this was a dose of reality. Uber confidence and a groundswell of fanfare landed Gib in the ring with Jake Paul on January 30th, 2020. And while Jake and Gib was a fight Jake took to get to KSI and to avenge his older brother, Gib looked at Jake as food, as prey, as someone in the way of his own legacy. He believed his suffocating forward pressure and his pure volume of punches would be enough to ensure his victory. Unfortunately, that pressure, one of Gib's greatest strengths, became his biggest weakness. Jake versus Gib ended up being a one-sided battle, with Gib trying to apply pressure and avoid Paul's shots, but unfortunately meeting leather in every single instance, with Jake being the sharper, more technically sound, and more ready for the moment. And while Jake stood up on those ropes and celebrated with his team in Florida, Gib was left to pick up the pieces. Most people would have stopped after that fight, as it was the biggest stage Gib had ever been on and a humbling defeat. But ANESONGIB isn't most people, and for him, this is what he needed to propel him to new heights and to further his boxing career. Whether it's pre-fight build-up or just his regular YouTube videos, Gib is a born entertainer, but he's learned to become a boxer. And in the long 1.5 year layoff that he took after the loss to Jake Paul, he fortified himself, waiting for his redemption moment. That moment came on June 12, 2021, as Gib was slated to fight on Social Gloves 1 against the very slick opponent Taylor Holder. Holder had been training with the likes of Canelo Alvarez in San Diego, California, and looked the part. Great jab, nice right hand, slick, composed, nice power, and a lot of people looked at Gib and said, "Are you sure you want to do this again?" And once again, the pressure was on the shoulders of Gib, a man that had taken a loss that not many would come back from, and the question was, how was he going to come back? But it just so happened on this night, Taylor Holder had to play the role of the pavement, and Gib the role of one-way traffic. And even with an absolutely absurd controversy, which saw both men awarded a draw, everyone in attendance and watching worldwide knew that the ANESONGIB had won this fight clearly. And after about a week of protest, he got his rightfully earned victory. But that controversy stuck in the mind of Gib. Just like the loss to Jake Paul, he was looking for vengeance in every aspect of the word. And if there was a man at the top of the Social Gloves controversy, not just on the win versus Taylor Holder, but, well, also withholding the money from fighters, it was the man that Gibbs set his sights on for vengeance once again, Austin McBroom. Gib considered Austin, no pun intended, to be the kingpin of the robbery placed against him versus Taylor Holder. And with both men available and looking to propel themselves into, again, the realm of the four kings in influencer boxing, Gib and Austin finally squared off on September 10th, 2022 in Los Angeles, California. The talk leading up was about the athleticism of Austin McBroom and how Gib, a former, well, let's just say out-of-shape FIFA player, could not possibly gain the amount of levels in this sport as a high-level athlete could in the same time period. And as the fight started, that seemed to be the case, with Austin McBroom coming out very quickly in the first round and sending Gib to the canvas once again, reminding everyone of the nightmare scenario we'd all seen 2 years previously when Jake knocked Gib down in the very first round. But someone must have forgotten to tell ANESONGIB that he wasn't as athletic as Austin McBroom. He wasn't supposed to get up off the canvas. He wasn't supposed to be able to outwork a high-level athlete. He wasn't supposed to become a better boxer than Austin McBroom in the same time period alone, based on the fact that he's just not as gifted. None of that mattered to Gib. Gib doesn't want gifts. He wants results.
I'm the main event. Ain't no back and forth. Let's get it. Heartless in the G. Yeah, better get lost. Don't get with it. Ain't nobody in front of me.
Knockdown after knockdown after knockdown. Gib earned the respect of Austin McBroom and the worldwide audience in one of the greatest moments in influencer boxing. He came back, he got his redemption, and he shut the door on any questions of if ANESONGIB was truly on the level of the best influencer boxers in this scene. Enter the Kingpin Tournament, a revolutionary idea where opponents would come together based on a random drawing and find out truly, no ducking, no dodging, no A side, no B side, are you the best in influencer boxing? And on the day of the random draw, the questions were being asked by everyone, and the name he pulled out would be a shock to everyone except Lady Fate, because Gib pulled the name Austin McBroom. The rematch was set for the Kingpin quarterfinals. The fight began with both fighters having success in the first 2 rounds, and as the third round started, Gib was applying his patented pressure once again, throwing big-time shots to the body, upstairs, and then all of a sudden, a yell, a scream in pain from Austin McBroom. And just as abruptly as it had started, confusion. And then ultimately, the fight was waved off. Gib picked up the win and solidified himself in the Kingpin semifinals. Working with Leon Wills and his coaches, Gib is devoting every second of his life to boxing. While he understands Jarvis is a formidable opponent and that he's been training at Mayweather's gym, in the words of Gib, it's all just a sham. Or you could say a scam. Because to Gib, Floyd Mayweather can't save the kid. Jarvis and Gib have a lot on the line for this fight, with Leon Wills saying if Gib loses, he should retire from boxing. And now Jarvis coming out to say if he loses to Gib, he will retire. The stakes are high and careers are on the line. But for Gib, there's always only been one thing on his mind. Sure, that is beating Jarvis and moving on to the Kingpin finals to take the crown, but more so than that, it's to cement himself as one of the best fighters in this scene. He won't just beat you with pressure and pacing. Gib has become a different fighter. One to pack the power to not only leave you in pain and send you to A&E, but to ultimately be the last one standing, the holder of the crown.
Never knew I wanna be gangster, trying to play hard.